Hey now.
We're back.
Here.
Welcome to The Spread, NESN.com's football video picks video podcast. You would think after a season and a half, I'd be able to figure that out. Yeah, but no, it's a mouthful.
Season and 3/4.
Yeah, we don't want the NFL banging on our doors. So we have the football picks video podcast.
Pro football,
I got it.
not college
Sure,
football.
pro football. I'm NESN.com's Mike Cole. That's Ricky Doyle. That's Andre Kachaturian. And as always, we are back to make our week 14? 14. Week 14 picks against the spread. I guess I shouldn't say, as always, we're back. We don't always make week 14 picks. I think that part's pretty self-explanatory.
We had the last 2 years, though.
Yeah, that's true. So, so as always, at week 14, we're here to make week 14 picks. Before we get to week 14, though, what's up, haters? I hope there are a ton of Philadelphia Eagles fans watching right now, and I hope you all leave your comments at the bottom again like you did last week, you bunch of slappies, because your team got smoked on the road against a good team for the first time all season, and all three of us said it, and you all talked a whole lot of jibber-jabber, and you all look like idiots now. So, that being said, let's get into week 13 records, of which I think we're going to like.
Yeah. Stick around because I think we're going to talk about the Eagles in a little bit.
Yeah, we are going to talk about the Eagles. I mean, you probably already
don't close out the window just yet.
The best part is they just came here, right? And they're like, oh, picks. So they're going to skip through till they get to the actual picks. So the Eagles fans probably didn't even hear this, so we'll just have to deal with it later.
We'll circle back.
Here are the records. Mike Cole is living the Vance Joseph lifestyle, having the time of his life with a 9-6-1 record last week. Up alone on top of the castle of Watertown, Massachusetts, 92-89-7. Look at him. Mike, how does it feel to be in first place after 13 weeks?
You know, so we also went over this last week with a colleague of ours, Ben Watanabe. We were talking about people, and not that, I should stop reading the comments, but like people getting on us about our records. It's like, we're making a pick for every single game. And by the way, another comment, go to NESN.com/odds, you get our picks there. All the picks are there, you dinks. We get to like.
Why are you insulting?
We get to like 8 or 9 of the games because
you had a record-breaking viewership last week.
I know,
1,000 views, and you're insulting them.
It's like use your coconut for me one time.
Sometimes you just gotta pick and choose. Maybe get some people out of it. There's too many people.
Yeah, good point. So
we need good viewers.
But I think we all went a combined 8-1 last week in the 3 games that we did. The 3 games that we actually really paid attention for. We did tonight. We did a good job.
Ricky, you also went 9-6-1. I went 7-8-1. I'm still hanging on to second place.
Also related, we went 5-0 in the Super Contest. Big. We were 3-way tie at top. Team Oddshark.
We've been mixing and matching strategies with that whole thing.
I think we finally found something.
I think we got something.
We are 11-4. We'll try to keep that offense rolling. 11-4 the last 3 weeks in the the Westgate Super Contest as part of Team Oddshark. Big thanks to Oddshark for hooking us up in the Super Contest. Also, big thanks to Oddshark for the lines every week. And with that being said, let's get into Week 14. We will start Sunday afternoon. Actually, all 3 of these games are Sunday. All 3 of them are Sunday afternoon.
Pretty good slate, too.
Yes, this is another good week here. The last 3 or 4 weeks going into this week and into next week, all looking pretty good. And then we get the end of the season. So, good time to be a football fan. We'll start Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock game. I think this is saying a lot. Maybe the least of the 3 games that we're going to go over, but we'll start with here anyway. The Vikings, 3-point road favorites going to Carolina to take out the Panthers. Panthers tough luck last week, just getting their doors blown off. That game was almost, I think, even more one-sided than the final score indicated. They have to take on a Vikings team that is playing as well as anybody. I think this is a team a lot of people are sleeping on, and it's a team that, if I'm not mistaken, has it controls its fate in terms of the 1 seed in the NFC. So we could be looking at a team entering the playoffs with home field advantage through the entire playoffs, all the way up through the Super Bowl. They could play. There's a path where they could play the divisional round, conference championship, and Super Bowl at home. But they got to go on the road this week to play the Panthers. Like I said, the Vikings are 3-point favorites according to Oddshark at the moment. So we'll start there. And Ricky, why don't you kick it off?
All right. So the Vikings aren't just a good football team; they're a good bet this season as well. Against the spread, they've covered 7 straight weeks. 9-3, best team in the NFL when it comes to against the spread. So week to week, they've been very good. A team I like a lot more than the underdog, as opposed to being favorites on the road. But I still like them this week, and there are a few things I really like about them. I'm sure as we were going over beforehand, it's going to be touched on ad nauseum. But I'll start with the ability to finish drives in the red zone. This was a huge problem for them last year. 28th in red zone scoring last year. First 8 games of this year also weren't scoring at a pretty good clip. Since their Week 9 bye, they've come out. They've scored 12 of 15 in the red zone.
Oh, I guess we read the same story.
So probably. So I'm not even going to go on about it. I just take the Vikings.
Yeah. I know exactly what story you read from. No.
Well,
I'm not going to waste my breath.
Let me add on what you were just saying about red zone. The Panthers' defense isn't very good in the red zone.
Oh.
They've allowed 63% red zone touchdown percentage. That's the 27th in the league. So basically, they allow a lot of touchdowns in the red zone. And let me add also, what do you think I'm going to say?
Third down.
No, I'm sticking to red zone. Vikings are 6th in red zone appearances. They make an appearance in the red zone. They're on the red zone channel a lot.
Sustained drives.
Yeah. Because they get to the red zone a lot. They make 3.6 appearances a game. Let's assume they round that up to 4. If they make 4 appearances, based on how good they are in converting in the red zone, that's 3 out of 4 touchdowns in the red zone. Throw on a field goal. That's 24 points that the Vikings are going to at least end up scoring against the Panthers. Can Cam Newton put up 24 points against that Vikings defense? I was getting excited about it.
Yeah, I know. I could
against the Vikings defense? I don't think so. Also, Panthers 26 in turnover differential. You can count on Cam throwing a couple picks, especially since he hasn't thrown one in a few games now. 4 games. He's due for one.
As you touched on, the Vikings have been a good bet all season. This is a recurring theme here on the spread. They've been a good bet under Mike Zimmer his entire run in Minnesota. They are 42-19 against the spread since he was hired. That goes back to the start of the 2014 season. That is first in the NFL by not by a wide margin, but right up there with the Patriots and the Packers. 2 teams that have been pretty good. Anyway, so we didn't touch on the third down. No, we didn't touch on the third down.
Left that for you.
We left it for you.
Vikings first offensively on third down, first defensively on third down. Third down in the red zone, as you mentioned, was where this game is going to be won or lost. Carolina is actually pretty good on third down too. 6th offensively, 8th defensively. But again, I thought one thing that was interesting that Mike Zimmer said it was early this week. They asked him about the third down, or he's talking about the third down, and they have so many different ways of converting third downs. Whether it's getting the ball to a guy like Adam Thielen, whether it's if you're in a third and long, maybe it's a Stephon Diggs big play. Jerick McKinnon has turned himself
Kyle
into
Rudolph
one
in
of
the red
yes
zone.
Kyle Rudolph's been good.
Rudolph season 2 is December. Rudolph.
If he's got a huge month, this is the month.
This is Rudolph's month.
I think we can all agree on that.
And again, something we touched on last week, Case Keenum, when he's running with the football, he can pick up, if they need 5 yards, he can get 6. It's just, I don't know. It's just something that he's
been looking legit, by the way. I mean, he's
gonna make
week
a lot
after
of money.
week, I continue to doubt him a little bit.
Case Keenum?
Because it's Case Keenum. He's looked awesome.
I mean, he gets good protection, too. And I think you talk about the battle of the trenches. Panthers fans might be watching this and go, well, Panthers are 4th in sack rate. Well, guess what? Vikings don't allow any sacks.
At home or on the road. The offensive line has traveled well, which you don't see. We certainly didn't see it last year from this Vikings team. Carolina, got to clean it up, too. Season high 12 missed tackles last week, according to Pro Football Focus. That was via the Charlotte Observer. 6 of those came on Alvin Kamara touches. Sure, Minnesota doesn't have Alvin Kamara, but like I said, McKinnon's a pretty good player. Serves a similar purpose. And again, I talked last week about Thielen and McKinnon, how they are able to get yards after catch. I think if Carolina can't tackle like they did, like they failed to do last week, this could be a long week for them. It'd be interesting if Thomas Davis is healthy enough to return. He only played 25 snaps last week. That might have had something to do with their tackling issues, but. I don't know. Ron Rivera said that getting back on grass is going to help those guys get healthy, and I don't know if I see that.
Let me just say one more thing about the Vikings and turnovers. They've been playing real teams, by the way.
Yeah.
They've played the Falcons, at Detroit, the Rams, at Washington, and those are real games. Unlike the Panthers, who've been beating up on the Dolphins and crappy NFL teams. And Vikings in the last 3 games, 0 giveaways, 0 turnovers.
They're playing very well.
Yeah.
They're just strong.
To pile on the third down thing, it'd be the first team since the 05 Falcons to finish in the top 2 in third down offense and defense. So I think all of this is just a long way of saying they're a very balanced team.
Yep.
Good on offense, good on defense, strong across the board.
These are the Mike Vick Falcons, right?
And 05, it had to be, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Yeah, long story short, good football team.
All right. On to the second game.
And now the number 1 seed, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
I'd love to see them in the Super Bowl. I'd like to see a home team.
It would be cool. And I mean, again, after just talking about how well Case Keenum played, this season, it'd be a nice little reward for him. But there'd be kind of something underwhelming about Case Keenum being a Super Bowl quarterback, but it'd be a nice.
Well, I think either way they'll get the doors blown off by the Patriots, but then we'll get to that.
We will get to that, sure. All right, so second game of the weekend, we'll go with Sunday late afternoon.
Vikings in the Super Bowl. Anyway, continue.
But you don't. Why? That's not feasible.
Saints.
We'll see.
You act as if that's a slam dunk. Shake your head in disgust at the Vikings.
I think you're.
It's not like you're taking some front runner.
I got nothing. I got nothing to add. You
All
guys
right,
just going off the rails. Philadelphia Eagles. We talked about the Eagles. We're going to talk about the Eagles again. America's favorite team, according to the spread YouTube comments.
A lot of Eagles avatars. You guys are on top of your avatar game, I can tell you that much.
This is not going to mean a whole lot coming from somebody who grew up in Massachusetts and works and lives in Boston, but Philly fans, reputation pretty much deserved. Yep. Yeah.
You're going to get some bad. People are not going to be too pleased with you this week.
No, they aren't. I don't care. It's
okay. Jonathan Ortiz will back us up. Yeah. He's a good fan.
I love him. Love Johnny.
They aren't going to like this anymore either. Eagles on the road at Los Angeles take on the Rams. The Eagles coming off that Sunday night loss. Again, the Eagles lost on Sunday. They are 2-point road underdogs now. Giving 2 points on the road to the Rams at home at the Coliseum. Philly is staying in California this week. They're not going to do the whole travel back and forth, so that's an interesting little wrinkle. Like I said, the Eagles 2-point road underdogs. Andre, who do you like here?
I am going to take the Los Angeles Rams. Let me tell you why I like the Rams. Look, a college football playoff was decided this week, and a lot of people looked at strength of schedule, who people have beat, quality wins, whatnot. The Rams have... if they were a college football team, they would be in the top 4 playoff because they've had 3 quality wins. Saints at Jacksonville, at Dallas when they had Zeke, and their losses were against the Saints and Seahawks. Meanwhile, the Eagles, still, the only quality opponent they've beat are the Carolina Panthers, and we all just talked about how much we think they're a fraudulent team. And they also beat the LA Chargers, but they really hadn't picked it up yet. It was the 4th game of the season, week 4, and the Chargers had another heartbreaking defeat in that game. Other reasons why I like the Rams, not only have they played quality teams, they have good numbers in the trenches. They have their 3rd in sack rate and 7th in sacks allowed rate. So not only do they get to the quarterback, they're good at defending Jared Goff. Trenches are very important for me.
What a comment.
Big guy on the
big trench guy.
Loves digging holes.
He's got trench coat. He wears a trench coat to work every day.
And Carson Wentz struggles away from Philadelphia.
Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, Carson Wentz isn't good.
He
struggles away from home. He has 7 fewer touchdown passes. His passer rating at home is 113. On the road is 93, which is still pretty solid, but significantly worse than away from Lincoln Financial Field. And his completion percentage, 5 percentage points, also fewer away from the city of brotherly love.
Sure.
All right, I like the Rams as well, and I'm going to tell you, I think we're getting to a point maybe with the Eagles too, where the injuries are catching up to them a little bit. You know, losing Jason Peters.
We
talked to him.
Huge,
Jordan Hicks. They've been without him for the past 4 games, I think it is. I can't tell me they couldn't have used Darren Sproles on Sunday night. Yeah. Especially when when they're feeling the pressure a little bit, dump it off to him. So I just want to look back at the 4 straight wins that they had immediately following the injuries to Peters and Hicks. Because what's the old adage? It's not who you play, it's when you play them. So not only did they beat up on bad competition, as you mentioned, they beat the 49ers, who were coming off a 40-10 loss to the Cowboys. That was in Philly. Bad team in a bad situation. Broncos, obviously a bad team. They were also in a bad spot, coming off straight back-to-back losses, just switched to Brock Osweiler. That complete train wreck at that point in time. Cowboys coming off a 20-point loss to the Falcons. We all know that whole deal, giving up about 1 million sacks to them in primetime. No Zeke, no Tyron Smith, no Sean Lee, so they were just a mess as well. Bears, they're a 3-win team and a rookie quarterback. So yeah, the Eagles have beat up on these teams, bad teams in bad spots. They finally got tested last week. We saw what happened. I think it happens again this week.
That was very passionate. I thoroughly enjoyed that speech.
Thank you. Fortunately for the Eagles, their next 3 games after this week are against the Giants, Raiders, and Cowboys. So there is time for them
Zeke
to
will be back for Dallas.
He will. That's the one that might be a little bit of a hiccup at the end, especially since they might be playing for something. But
they might not be either, too.
It's true. Yeah. So we'll see. A lot can change between now and then. But I think this is another week where if you're the Vikings, you maybe pick up the win. You sit back and you get a little bit of a stranglehold if they on the number 1 seed if the Eagles lose there.
Yep. You talk about the trenches, and I think that's where I'm going to start with it because again, I sat here last week and said,
"You're a big trenches guy."
Not for this game. I am. I said, I said going into that game, this is maybe where you start to feel the absence of Jason Peters. Carson Wentz last week pressured on 58% of his dropbacks, highest in the league last week, according to Pro Football Focus. According to Pro Football Focus, this is via CSN Philly's Dave Zangaro. I gotta look this up. Philly lineman Hala Puli Vati Vaitai.
Peters' replacement.
Yes, exactly. Allowed 2 sacks, a quarterback hit, and 7 hurries last week. Again, and now you get a pass rush that, like I said, 5th in sack percentage, had 6 sacks last week. You're playing at home. LA is getting after the quarterback. Wade Phillips is going to get tricky. It just, and again, you mix in the fact that Wentz hasn't played as well on the road. Again, you're talking about offensive lines don't travel as well. A lot going against that Philly offense. And,
you put the wrong LA team in the 5th. 5th is Chargers. The Rams are 3rd sack.
Sure. All right, that's on me. That is my bad. Sorry. I also like that Philly, Doug Peterson said that Philly went conservative last week to kind of start things off. They want to kind of take the crowd noise out of it. Well, that ended up screwing them over in the long run. They started slow and could never really rebound enough. Now they've got a tough spot. You go into Los Angeles to take on a team that averages 14.6 points per game in the first half at home. They're a good, they start fast and they start quick at home, the Rams do. That's the 2nd best first half team at home. Philly on the road, 9.2 points per game in the first half. A 10-point differential between home and road. They are a much different team on the road than they are at home. Another thing I like, 9 of the 16 touchdown passes Philly has allowed this year, 2 of 3 on Sunday, have come to running backs or tight ends. And now you get Todd Gurley, who 3 receiving touchdowns is tied for 2nd among running backs. He's 7th among running backs in receptions total. If you don't know about Zach Ertz, suffered a concussion. He's got a history of concussions. A lot going against Philly. And again, you want to sit here and talk about those games that they played. They didn't look great against Chicago, despite blowing them out. They fumbled 4 times.
Yeah,
they committed 11 penalties. And they turned the ball over twice last week. 7 penalties. They've been sloppy. Peterson's been lamenting bad weeks in practice. Philly could win this game, sure. I mean, they're 10-2 for a reason or whatever they are. But a lot going against them this week, so I think it's just only natural to take the Rams here.
Yeah, I know it's to the point where you're giving the Eagles a lot of flack. I mean, I still think they're a good football team.
Right?
This
is. I mean, if we had sat here, I wish we had the foresight to do this 3 weeks ago, saying, Philly can run through these teams right now, but they got a tough stretch coming up, and they're in the middle of this tough stretch now.
Goff has been on fire in the last 5
Right,
games,
that's the other thing, too.
11 touchdowns, 2 picks, 5 straight games with 62% completion percentage. Very accurate quarterback. Yeah. Carson Wentz, remember a few weeks ago I talked about how he's not very accurate. Still around 60%. I think a lot of his success has come because they have, as you mentioned, the crappy opponents they've been playing.
Yeah, some unfamiliarity too with the East Coast and the West Coast teams, but you got to keep in mind Sean McVay, offensive coordinator with the Redskins. They were 5-1 against the Eagles when he was the offensive coordinator there. So
that's a good stat.
I do.
Maybe you'll bring that out west.
I love Wentz. He's just so much fun to watch. It's just, I don't know if it's gonna be enough this week.
Nice little QB battle.
Well, what is this?
A lot to prove for these two guys.
First time in however long, or only the 5th time ever that the number 1 and number 2 picks from a single draft quarterbacks.
That's awesome. I think this will be a rivalry that we'll be watching for 15 years.
Hope so.
Let's go.
Sure.
Should have saved that for show and tell. I mean, a good take for show and tell.
How do you know I haven't?
You just gave it away.
But that'll be a Thanksgiving game at some point. Mark that down. That's a random prediction, but I'm going to go with it. All right, finally. This game's an interesting one, I guess. This is just, if you'd given me the schedule at the start of the year, I would have told you that this is not a game I'd be looking forward to.
14-point spread.
Yeah, right. But a lot can change. A lot can change. And actually, I was, what the hell was I watching? Oh, the Isaiah Thomas thing on the Players Tribune when he went to go watch the Patriots practice during minicamp. They were practicing against the Jaguars, and I remember everybody saying how bad the Jaguars looked, and now here we are. But the Jaguars at home hosting the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks coming off of that win. They beat Philly on Sunday night. They go to Jacksonville as 3-point road underdogs here. Jacksonville laying 3 points. Granted, it is at home against the Seahawks. Not something I would have expected, but here we are. Ricky, what do you think?
All right, so being the big trench guys that you are, the big battle of the trenches, I don't know if that's maybe where you're leaning with this one with regards to the Jaguars, because that's the one thing that scares me about this is that Jacksonville pass rush going up against that Seattle offensive line. Because as good as Seattle looked at times against the Eagles, that offensive line, there were still times there was a jailbreak and he was running for his life. And it was all boils down to Russell Wilson making plays, firmly entrenched in the MVP race, by the way. But I'm taking the Seahawks here. I'm taking the Seahawks. I know it's on the road. But this just seems like year after year we see this. Something clicks. Right around December, Russell Wilson starts to play better towards the end of the year as opposed to the beginning of the year. And sure, they don't have the whole Legion of Boom secondary, but they're controlling the line of scrimmage. You do that. You get the linebackers. Bobby Wagner having an unbelievable year. Let your linebackers make some plays. So I don't know. I like the Seahawks here. Other thing I like from that win last week is much more discipline. This team leads the league far and away in penalties, but the last 2 weeks they've toned it down a little bit. So if they can play some disciplined football in this game, I like the Seahawks on the road.
I love Russell Wilson this year.
Yeah, you're coming around on him big time, huh?
He is literally carrying the Seahawks in his back, like I mentioned last week. But you mentioned it. That pass rush is just too strong. I don't think it's going to work out this week. The 10.2% sack rate, 45 sacks. Number one, the Jaguars in both categories. Opponents complete just 57.3% of passes against the Jaguars. It's the second lowest. Russell Wilson is going to be pressured today. Not today. Maybe he is being pressured today. Maybe he's in traffic right now. But on Sunday, he's going to be pressured. He's going to make mistakes. Jaguars have I believe, the second best turnover differential. They're going to force some turnovers. And people keep talking about how the Jacksonville run defense isn't good. Well, they're playing the Seattle running attack this week, which is pretty much non-existent other than Russell Wilson. They're going to figure out a way. All they have to do is stop Russell Wilson. That team doesn't have anything else on offense. That being said, I do agree with you. He's an MVP candidate in my book. But expect a low-scoring game. Wilson will make mistakes. Jags will run the clock and win the game.
Interesting.
That sack, though, the sack rate. Let's keep in mind that they had 10 sacks in 2 separate games.
Yep.
I agree, but they're
so
playing.
I mean that's going to skew the numbers.
But you can't say they're not good.
No, I'm not. I wholeheartedly think that the Jaguars have a very good defense, especially the secondary that we even really touch on. But
so
AJ Boye,
we want to sit here and ding the Eagles for not playing anybody, right? You want to?
Yeah. Hell yeah, I do.
Houston with Tom Savage at quarterback. Baltimore.
Here we go.
At Pittsburgh, decent win. Indianapolis, Cincinnati,
at least
Chargers,
Pittsburgh.
In overtime.
That's
Cleveland,
a big win.
And Indianapolis.
Okay,
not a whole lot of good wins.
You just named 3 big wins. Ravens, they killed them. And then the Steelers and the Chargers. Those are 3 quality wins in my book.
The Ravens is not a quality win. The Ravens at home is not a quality win.
But they have a quality loss to the Rams.
Oh, my God. Quality losses. Do quality losses get you into the playoffs?
No.
The committee, you going to look at that? I'm not saying, no.
Just storm off the set.
I'm just saying.
They're not bad. I think.
They've shown this year they can be good teams.
I don't know if this is their toughest test. This is a tough test.
The Steelers and Chargers are both
my only point was that you have to take some of these stats with a grain of salt when you get to pad your stats against Indianapolis, who might be the worst team in the league. Houston, who, again, that was week 1 before they realized that Deshaun Watson was the best quarterback in that class. And Tennessee, who can't get its head out of its ass from time to time. So I'm just saying there are different qualifiers there. That being said, yes, it's a tough matchup for Seattle. But I think if it really comes down to the quarterbacks for me, like I trust Russell Wilson more than I trust Blake Bortles. That's up there.
I like him even more in an AFC game,
Can we kill this narrative about Blake Bortles? Can we just admit that this guy is not making mistakes this year?
Can you let me finish and I'll get to it? Let me finish and I'll get to it. First of all,
like a parent scolding his kid right there.
First of all, what everyone wants to talk about Leonard Fournette at the start of the year. What has he done in the last half of a season? In the last 5 to 6 weeks? Doug Marrone talked about, if we want to be a good team, we've got to run the ball when teams expect us to run the ball. You know what teams are doing right now? They expect the Jaguars to run the ball, and Leonard Fournette's averaging 2.9 yards per carry his last 4 games. He's got 1 touchdown in that. Teams are starting to load up the box. He's even chirping at fantasy people saying, what do you want from me? They're putting 11 people in the box. Now he's getting a defensive-minded team that knows what it's doing. They're going to, sure, there are some injuries on the Seattle defensive line, but it sounds like they're going to get Deion Jordan back this week. They could even get Nazir Jones back as well. They did a nice job, even short-handed. That's a good front. I think they find a way to slow him down again. And what you want to do when you play against Jacksonville, you want to make Blake Bortles throw the football. I don't care about those numbers because, again, they were probably against crap teams. When he has to throw the ball 31 times or more this season, they are 3-4. You go back 2 weeks ago, he went 0 of 5 on passes that traveled 11 or more yards. And then he gets a nice, comfy matchup against Indianapolis last week and goes 6 of 9 for 125 yards against a horrible secondary. This secondary banged up, not 1,000 times better than the Colts.
All I am saying is let's kill the narrative about Blake Bortles being one of the worst quarterbacks in the league.
Blake Bortles has been in...
I'm not saying he's Aaron Rodgers.
No,
but I'm also saying he's not C.J. Beathard.
But they've got
somewhere in between. You can beat the Seahawks with somewhere in between a quarterback.
No, because he's been
at home.
He's been put in a position this year where he doesn't have to do too much. They've done a hell of a job. Hell of a job building a defense that puts him in advantageous places.
Exactly. Yes. So the Jaguars are a more complete team than the Seahawks. The Seahawks are a one-man show with a banged-up defense that showed up at home against Sunday Night Football. I'm not taking away from that win. That was fantastic. I knew they were going to do that. I called that win. But Russell Wilson, he can't do it every week, and he's not going to be able to do it against an elite defense like the Jaguars. Elite defense? I'm sorry.
It's just...
Eagles, sure. Not elite.
I'm getting points here, too, so I like that as well. And again, I talked about last week, all the trends point in Seattle's direction, especially when they're getting points.
Let me just say also, Blake Bortles threw the ball 51 times against the Chargers. They won that game. So...
yes, they won that game.
Chargers blew that game.
Was a clown show.
Yeah, especially the end of that
on both
game.
sides.
But my point is, Bortles can throw the ball 50 times a game and still win because he has talent around him. He's not the central focus of that team.
Pick the outlier.
Not picking the outlier. I'm just saying
keep in mind the Jaguars are wearing teal this weekend. I don't know if any of you fashionistas want to break down the teal win-loss record.
This is when we move on to locks and upsets.
Everything else? No, that's it. Locks and upsets. Let's start with locks. Andre, why don't you start?
My lock of the week this week, I have speaking of the Chargers, I'm thinking the Chargers of the Redskins. I love what a feel-good story, isn't it? Phillip Rivers commutes from San Diego to Los Angeles every day.
Yeah, I'm sure they love it in San Diego.
I don't care.
Feel good for San Diego.
He
got Bo and their team left.
First of all, they need to change the team name to the Southern California Chargers to help maintain that San Diego fan base, because we might see an AFC championship in that soccer stadium, and it'll be all the road team fans. It'll be very embarrassing. But anyway, this week they're playing the Redskins.
Happy for Dean Spanos.
6-point favorites. Chargers.
Good story.
Speaking of the trenches, I love the Chargers in the trenches. 4th in sacks, 5th in sack rate. They protect their quarterback better than any team. Allow a sack on just 2.9% of dropbacks. Battle of the trenches. Gonna go to LA in this one. Chargers 3rd in turnover differentials. They haven't had a turnover in the last 3 games, and they forced 10. And guess what? You know what happens when the Chargers win the turnover battle? They're 6-1 this year. I think the Redskins are just a broken team right now. They had that tough schedule. I think it's just psychologically gotten to them. They have a bunch of injuries. I think this might be a blowout. We've got a team traveling from east to west too.
Broken physically, broken mentally.
Kirk Cousins tryout
just
time.
Broken.
Yeah. Exactly.
Broken all around. My lock, I'm going to take the Patriots. 11.5-point favorites over the Dolphins. I think this is like week. 3. Yeah. Really, I just keep rolling it over. I think it's like 3 or 4 weeks in a row I've taken them. Why stop now? 6-0 against spread since week 7. Covering some decent spreads, including that 17-point spread against the same Dolphins team just a couple weeks ago. I understand they have some problems every now and then when they travel down to Miami, so that's maybe the one thing that gives me reason for pause. But I don't know. I think with this spread being only 11.5, I think we're putting too much stock into their win over the Broncos. And maybe the Gronk injury a little bit, so I don't think either are going to be much of a factor.
I mean, those Dolphins teams were better too when they were.
Yeah.
This offense team sucks.
It's amazing they've won as many games as they have. I mean, none of the numbers reflect well on them.
They're bottom of the league, just about everything. I'll take Kansas City 4-point favorites at home against Oakland. Again, I think there's probably some value here because I think a lot of people are going to be down on the Chiefs, rightfully so. They can't beat anybody right now. They can't even beat the Jets. But Oakland's bad. I think Oakland is really bad. They give up a ton of yards, give up a lot of big plays. They don't force turnovers. They got lucky last week against the Giants. Yeah, Kansas City's turned the ball over, or they turned it over just once in the first 7 games. They've turned it over 7 times the last 5 games. They take care of the football. They win games. Now they get a home game against an Oakland team that's forced just 9 turnovers the entire season. Oakland gives up the big play. We saw a 64 and 63-yard touchdown in that first meeting. Again, Oakland did win that game, but Amari Cooper's banged up here. I don't know. I feel like there's probably, maybe I'm overlooking it or overreacting or whatever, but I feel like there's probably a little bit of value there in terms of people kind of staying away from the Chiefs. So I'll take them because I just think there's a few big plays. This is a get-right game for them. They had teeth to their schedule.
Imagine being a Chiefs fan living in New York, though. Imagine being a Chiefs fan that lives in New York, though. You look at the schedule in April, and you're like, wow, the Chiefs are coming to New York twice. I'm going to go and watch these games. And you go, and you're like, wow, Giants and Jets, they both stink. I'm going to see my team win twice in person. They lose both the games.
That's a good point.
Oh, jeez. Tough to do, losing twice in the Meadowlands, and not because of the scheduling purposes.
Upsets, Andre.
Upsets. I get to go again first, huh?
Yeah, whatever.
It took me a very long time to figure out what upset I was into because I had the 49ers over the Texans. But you know what? I'm going to go to Bears, 5.5-point underdogs against the Bengals. These two teams rank 31st and 32nd in offensive plays run, just like total amount of plays.
Yeah.
They don't run many plays because they stink on offense and they're on defense the whole time. But something's got to give here, and I think it's going to be battle on the ground. It's going to be cold weather, Cincinnati in December, and the Bears have a very good running game, 10th in rush yards per attempt. Bengals have allowed the 5th highest rushing yards per game, and on the other side, the Bengals are 30th in rushing yards per play. So I think the Bears end up eating the clock. They're getting the points. And the Bengals also have the worst turnover differential than the Bears. So, and Andy Dalton, no interceptions in the last 3 games. Last week I said he was due for one. This week he's really due for one.
He's overdue.
He's very overdue, yeah.
I'll take the other game you mentioned, the 49ers, over the Texans. Texans losing 5 of their last 6. It's just that team's really just on the downswing. And on the meanwhile, you look at the Niners, maybe the Jimmy G magic carries over a little bit. I just think that they got a new little lease on life here. Yeah. So getting 3 points. I know they're on the road, and traditionally they haven't played well against the AFC, but I'll roll with the Jimmy G. The Jimmy G magic for one more week.
The Jimmy G thing's going to be fascinating to watch. His teammates already come out and said last week, I think it was Marquise Goodwin said he looked like a young Tom Brady out there. Yeah. And I tell you what, if this kid grows up...
Carlos Hyde.
Everybody Carlos Hyde, right. Everybody keeps saying good things about this guy. And the Patriots had to do something, but, geez, if they give up... Again, Brady's probably going to play until he's 60 anyway.
I don't want to get too off topic. What do you think Garoppolo's ceiling is as a quarterback? What would he be... comparative, if you were to compare him to guys across the league.
Tony Romo.
Yeah, somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. I say somewhere in that echelon below, Brady and the Matthew Stafford type. Maybe a little bit better than Stafford.
I think higher than Stafford.
He'd be like Stafford, but with the intangibles.
Talent.
That's why I said Roethlisberger, because I think he's going to make.
But he actually will come up with some big
talking about
wins.
the things his teammates were saying to him. Imagine what C.J. Beathard is thinking.
I know. I was thinking the same thing.
Joel Staley, we've got a quarterback, huh? Yeah. Marquise Goodwin. Some people are just winners, and he's a winner.
I know.
C.J. Beathard reading that.
I feel like it was probably just he knew. He's C.J. Beathard, kudos to C.J. Beathard. Yeah. At least he's not sitting here doing a stupid football pick show. Like he's an NFL quarterback. It's going to
be tough when Garoppolo blows out his knee and Beathard's trying to rally the troops next season.
Yeah, right. That's a good point.
You guys doubted me and everything. But.
For my upset, I'll take the Arizona Cardinals. They are 3-point home underdogs against Tennessee. Tennessee, I think I'm out on Tennessee. I've wanted the Titans to be good. Love Nashville as a city. My brother's a Titans fan. I'd love to see them do well. What do? They run the ball. That's it. Now you get a Cardinals team that, for as bad as it's been at times this year, they're pretty good against the run. They give up 3.5 yards a carry, 3.7 to be exact. And I think they laid a little groundwork a couple weeks ago against Jacksonville. They won at home against Jacksonville, held Fournette to 25 yards. Made Bortles throw the ball 33 times, and they lost. And I think Mariota obviously is better than Bortles, but I think that Jacksonville defense is also better than the Tennessee defense. So Arizona should get to be able to move the ball well. Larry Fitzgerald, by the way, just skyrocketing up the career yards chart. That dude is unbelievable. Everybody wants to hear and talk about Tom Brady and how great Tom Brady is at his age, but man, Larry Fitzgerald is an ageless wonder.
You know who's
so much fun. Kind of got a second win too, because I feel like a few years ago, he was kind of on the downswing.
Everything's do we get him to New England somehow to get him a ring before he retires?
Yeah, before he rides off into the sunset. Now all of a sudden you look and he's just at the top of the leaderboard.
You know who I think is going to have a similar back? What is it? The golf saying this year? Back nine. Back nine of his career is Des Bryant. Similar build. Larry Fitzgerald's not getting past receivers anymore, but in the red zone, he's a very dangerous figure. And I think Des Bryant's going to be the same when he's 35. He'll still be productive in the red zone.
So good.
Going over people.
He looked very pissed off. He was very pissed off last week, and for the better.
I love Des Bryant.
All right, let's do show and tell and get out of here.
All right.
We got stuff to do.
This week's object for me, it's the holiday season.
Nice.
And what do we do?
What scent is that?
It's a waterfall scented.
Nothing says Christmas like the waterfall.
This is a summer. It's from I bought it in the summer. I never really used it much. But
Niagara Falls?
This is a candle. You look at it, it's just blob of wax. It doesn't really do anything for anyone, right? Yeah. Sometimes you gotta set fire to something to make its true essence come out. And that's what the New York Giants did this week. They set fire to their entire front office. They set fire to their head coach. And I think next year this is going to be one of those things. They're a year removed away from an 11-5 record. I think they're going to fix their quarterback situation in the offseason. And next year you're going to come out. You're going to set fire. You're going to smell the scented waterfall candle. You're going to smell the New York Giants' success. NFC East 2018 champions. And we'll get to see. I predicted the Giants to make the Super Bowl this year. I think that was 1 year.
Maybe you said a Super Bowl. Maybe you didn't.
Yeah, I was talking about. It was a 2018 preview show.
I thought it was really interesting. Brian Baldinger, that's his name, like Brian Baldinger.
Because they got good talent. They got good receivers.
Works
good
NFL
defense.
Network. He does these video breakdowns on Twitter of just the coaches' film. It's really interesting. Just ripped apart McAdoo, just how basic their offense is. I think you might be right. Like, they get somebody in there, maybe Josh McDaniels, somebody like that, who actually knows what they're doing on offense. I think you're going to see a big change.
You know what I see Eli Manning doing next year, though? He'll reunite with Tom Coughlin in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Well,
Blake Bortles is an all-pro now, so.
Well, I didn't say he was an all-pro. I specifically said he is not Aaron Rodgers, but he's also not CJ Beathard. Somewhere in between.
I'm glad. I was just at Target a little while ago, which I'll get to my show and tell, but I almost bought Horrible Bosses on DVD for the Giants, so I'm glad I didn't.
Why don't you go?
All right, I'll go.
We always have the same.
Because I was excited when you came back with this.
So I got
candy canes.
Candy canes. I don't know. These are got the tiny ones. They're a little different.
What flavor are those?
These are.
Give some of them to Ricky to put on his
like
Christmas
peach.
treats. Since they ran out of candy canes, he had to put an actual cane.
There we go. Candy canes. I got candy canes. So like Christmas season, obviously. Christmas season rolls around, and now we're all supposed to care about candy canes, and we're told how great candy canes are, and candy canes have been around forever or whatever. You know, they get to this time of year, we think they're supposed to be good, but they kind of suck. Like, candy canes aren't great. And they get stuck in your teeth. They don't taste great. You get these weird fruit flavors.
Those sizes, by the way, are good, but who the hell could eat a full-size candy cane?
Well, you got to break these up.
You got to commit, man. You got to commit to a full-size candy cane.
So, candy canes, we think they're good. Like, we're told that they're supposed to be good, but in reality, they aren't very good. Kind of like maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I know that the Steelers are on a 7-game winning streak. I know they're, 10-2 now? But, man, and maybe they're just a team that plays down to their competition, and maybe in a couple of weeks they'll beat the Patriots, and they'll be right back on the Super Bowl parade through Pittsburgh again, whatever. But, geez Louise, man. Of that 7-game winning streaks, 5 of those wins have come by 6 or fewer points, and 3 of their last 4 wins have come by 3 points. Indianapolis, suck. Green Bay with Brett Hundley, terrible. And Cincinnati, divisional game, but still. And they probably should have lost that game on Monday night. They were down early, down at halftime, not inspiring a whole lot of confidence. You got guys getting ejected. You got guys breaking their backs.
How many ejections were there?
I don't know.
That game was brutal.
And to piggyback on your point, Ryan Shazier, who knows what?
That's what I said. The broken back.
Yep. The future.
So it doesn't look good. So again, maybe I'm wrong, and I'm not out to totally get the state of Philadelphia today, but I don't feel great about the Steelers. Did I say Jesus Christ?
That's what we get for doing this late in the afternoon.
Yeah, the Keystone State.
I want to stick with that. We'll talk about this game for a second. The Bengals Steelers that were coming off of here. A very, very brutal game. They brought in a Pup Tart. I want to talk about Vontez
Don't get
Burfict.
those around our friend Nick Goss. He loves Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, he's got a very weird
palette of food.
Yeah, and especially with it. He likes plain Pop-Tarts, I believe. But anyways, I want to talk about Vontez Burfict getting popped by Juju Smith-Schuster. Absolutely laid out. And listen, I get it. It was a borderline hit. But the fact that he's getting suspended for 1 game is asinine in my opinion.
Why?
I don't think he deserves to be suspended for a game.
Did you see the hit?
I did see the hit, and I think it was.
If he hit you like that, you'd not be here today. You'd be dead.
But that, I mean,
Rest in peace, Ricky.
I mean, I don't think that's gonna go before the league. He can hit me as hard as he wants. I just think that's one of those hits where it was borderline. It was borderline. Maybe it was dirty, but I don't think it's suspension worthy. I really don't.
They specifically mentioned in the letter that the celebration went against him too, which is that.
The league is trying to get that out of the game.
But the league is also trying to like build up the Steelers-Bengals rivalry as like this huge
AFC North football. You get Ben Roethlisberger after the game.
What
would you say about the physicality? AFC North football.
I'm kind of on your side here. Yeah, it's just.
Listen, taking out the fact that Burfict got carted off. I mean, obviously, you never want to see anybody get hurt, especially to the point where they get stretch it off the field. Right. They have to give it the thumbs up, but. There, to an extent, too. The guy brings it upon himself. I mean, look at the track record there. So, naturally, a hit like that is the closest thing you're going to get in the NFL to players policing themselves. I mean, this isn't like the NHL where you can all of a sudden flip the mittens and go at it. I mean, this is like, a hit like that is the only thing you can really do if you want retribution on the field. And yeah, I hit him a little high, but it was a penalty. It was a penalty, and that should have been the end.
It was against Dre Kirkpatrick and not Vontaze Burfict. How would you feel?
It's the same way. I don't think the hit was that bad. See, it was a little high.
Okay,
and at least it was a little high. And here's the other thing too. If that's one game, then maybe like shouldn't Gronkowski get more than a game?
Yes,
at least
I think
because at least Smith-Schuster's was disguised in the flow of play. It wasn't after a whistle and a blatant dive at a guy's head.
That's the thing. Is like he saw an opportunity and he took it, and I think it could have been worse. He could have went higher. He could have really launched himself. And I think all things considered, maybe you backed off a little bit because he had it. He was a sitting duck.
All of them were looking for that the entire night.
Oh, my biggest problem, my only problem with it, maybe aside from the standing over him, but even then, I don't really have that much of an issue with it, given the things that Burfict has said. Yeah. I mean, he basically said Antonio Brown faked his injury last year, so I don't have it's hard to have sympathy when a guy's
Antonio Brown got a hit to the head after his game-tying touchdown too.
Yeah, he got whacked.
Why is there no suspension?
But my issue with the Juju hit was that they were down 7 at the time, and it was late in the game, and you're costing your team by taking a flag. So that's really my only problem.
And they still won.
They still won, yeah. Chris Boswell killing my fantasy season last night. That kick got me out of the playoffs. I'm sorry.
Thoughts and prayers. Well, at least you're not dead.
Yeah, at least Juju Smith-Schuster.
Also, Antonio Brown yelling karma in the locker room, probably not the smartest thing.
Yelling what?
Karma.
He looked like
perfect thing.
That did not.
He's not good at the whole locker room. Hiding from the media.
If there's a camera, just get out of there, Antonio.
He's not good at that.
I want a 7-game series between those two teams.
I know.
Smith-Schuster.
See who comes out alive. It's like a Hunger Game.
Trying to apologize and all you hear in the background is karma! Like, dude, just shut up.
But hey, down Brown, he'll pay for the fine.
Football players, man. I love it. All right, that's it for the Spread. That's.com's Football Picks podcast. Thanks for joining us as always. As Andre mentioned earlier, Philly, whatever, you are where you are. But we continue to have great numbers, great viewership numbers. So thanks for joining us. Hopefully you come back next week when we'll do the same thing.